buddy. Oh, look! He's on my shirt. There he is. Ahoy, Vashikni.
Ahoy, Jen.
Ahoy, Hanzo. What are you drinking?
This is a Staropramen.
Ooh.
Extra hoppy.
Prague beer.
12 degree. So.
Yeah, it's nice. Cheers. Na zdraví. Tak, welcome. A few weeks ago, over a month ago, we created one of our favorite videos on the channel so far about the Prague neighborhoods. And it was so fun to create. And we wanted it to be funny regardless of how well you knew Prague, right? But there were a lot of inside jokes. Like the people who really understood it were the people who were very familiar with Prague. And so a lot of our friends and family from home watched it and were like, oh, why is this character like this? And we'd have to explain it. And so while there's nothing as unfunny as explaining jokes, we thought it was worth it for us to explain a few things about the Prague neighborhoods.
So we got a few questions.
From the questions that people asked us.
Exactly. And
we would explain it to you so that you could go and watch that video and understand a little bit more the locals' inside jokes about Prague.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get started. Why did Old Town arrive on a Segway that she claims is not a Segway? This is a Segway-free zone. It's not a Segway.
It seems to be a constant battle between, I guess, tourists and locals that ride these electric motorized devices on our streets and often on our sidewalks, and then City Hall, which is trying to ban the latest wheeled transport. So a while back they put up no Segway signs, and then it became these big scooters, and then it became small scooters. You okay, buddy? The companies that provide these devices are trying to stay one step ahead of the City Hall.
Of the regulators.
And the regulators can't seem to have the foresight to ban a class of vehicles. They just ban specific vehicles.
Yeah.
So at any given time, you could get run over on the sidewalk by some new invention that hasn't been regulated yet.
The greatest likelihood of death in Prague is getting hit by one of these devices.
Yeah. You left out some of Prague's best neighborhoods. Where's Holešovice, Smíchov, and Malá.
Yeah, and one of our friends pointed out that we left out every West Bank district. And this is because we tend to hang out on the East Bank. We tend to hang out, they don't really call it the East Bank, but we tend to hang out on this side of the river. And so those are the neighborhoods that we're really familiar with. I think we should do a follow-up video with Holešovice, Smíchov, Ledna, Malá. Obviously, there's room for all these other fantastic neighborhoods. They just didn't make it into our video because it's not like primarily where we hang out. If you have something to say about Holešovice, I know a lot of people want a Dream Prague shirt about Holešovice, so let me know in the comments what you think about Holešovice.
Okay.
Who are the roving bands of pasty-costumed Englishmen, and why does Vinohrady dislike them? How could Prague survive without them?
These are the British stag parties that come because Prague is affordable or cheap. And this was
It's like the Vegas of Europe for these parties.
Yeah, for the Brits it can be.
A stag party is a bachelor party for
Right.
Americans.
And so they come, they drink a lot, they stay up late. Usually for a stag or bachelor party, they've got the groom dressed up in some idiotic costume like a baby or something. And then you can hear them yelling down the street at 2 a.m. So so they're a favorite target for us, for our Brit Burns, and yeah.
And Vinohrady particularly dislikes them because she's a little bit of a, she wants to upscale the joint, and they do not do that.
Yeah. Easy target. Sorry.
Target.
Don't make yourself an easy target.
Behave. When you come, behave.
Yeah. What is the tattoo on Zhizhkov's character's arm?
Yes, that was drawn with my left hand, so that's why it's indistinguishable. It is a baby it's one of David Cherny's babies, famous Czech artist, that is climbing up Zhizhkov Tower. And so she has it climbing up her arm. That's what the baby is. They're climbing up the Zhizhkov Tower, and on the other side of the river, you can see them on Kampa. There are 3 babies as well. Big babies.
Yeah, and you can climb on them.
Yeah. Do 2 large bottles of Branik, a bag of Roliki, and a tub of whatever that was cost only 99 crowns.
I'm pretty sure that each of those bottles of Branik probably cost 100 crowns.
Okay, so it's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
What's with the bag of Rolik? That seems kind of weird.
Yeah, so I saw it yesterday. Like, it's the cheapest plastic grocery store produce bag you can get, and it's always got at least 4, usually 4 to 8 Rolik.
Yeah, it's so Czech to walk around with like a plastic bag of just like a ton of Rolik. Like, you don't see sort of French people like buying croissants en masse.
Yeah, how many can you eat in a day? And they're always there. It's not like you can't just go to the shop tomorrow and get, maybe if you're going out to the village for the weekend to your...
And you get Prague Roliki?
And you're like...
Maybe they're going on a bus ride or something. I don't know. But this setup with the Roliki and the tub of...
Pate?
Something like that. Okay. And then the Branik. That's just very Zhizhkov. That's like a Zhizhkov lunch.
Right. Why is Zhizhkov drawing graffiti on the table?
Zhizhkov, can I ask you please to not graffiti on the table? Because Zhizhkov is probably the most graffitied area of Prague. It's like they just can't help themselves. I saw something over there the other day and it was like, don't get vaccinated, like on a wall.
If you got you got to get the word out. You got a can of spray paint.
They can't help themselves, just like he couldn't help himself drawing on the table. This is Zhizhkov.
Yeah, so it was perfect for the neighborhood.
Yeah. Why is Zhizhkov dressed like Snake Plissken from Escape from LA?
Okay.
A lot of Czechs ask me this. I know I had never seen the film. I dressed exactly like him. I could be him. Mullet, eye patch, and everything.
The mullet, I think, is a classic Zhizhkov haircut.
Because it's a cut from like the Czech 80s, and they just never changed their hairstyles in Zhizhkov. They're still living in the 80s.
And the eye patch is a reference to Jan Žižka, who's on the top of Vitkov Hill.
Mm-hmm. Who Zhizhkov is named after. He was a Hussite warrior, and he lost an eye in battle, so he wears a patch.
And then there's a ripped black T-shirt. Mm-hmm. So that just seems
seems kind of
like a band, like he's in a band.
Right.
Was there a bandana? There was like a headband.
There was like a headband. It was to keep the mullet in place.
That's
that's just kind of like what Zhizhkov people don't walk around wearing eye patches. That was an homage, obviously, but yeah, that just seems kind of like what a Zhizhkov dude dresses like.
Yeah. Why is Carlene in a bathing suit, towel, and snorkel mask?
Monthly flood drill. Well, that was actually your idea to dress her like that, so tell me why.
That was a reference to the floods, the 2002 floods, which put Carlene mostly underwater. And which has also led to a lot of its renovation and revitalization, because as it was built back, it was built back better. They've put a lot more cool coffee shops and things like that. So anyway, the bathing suit was reference to that flood.
And the snorkel mask.
And the snorkel mask. And while they are cool, they always seem to be slightly in danger of becoming very cool underwater.
Every time we talk about like, hey, we should move to Carlin, John's like, floods.
Flood insurance.
We're not moving to Carlin. It's a bit of a reference to the monthly Wednesday at noon drill that's all over the city where you hear the sirens.
Well, everyone else gets air raid drills.
And Carlin, they don't have flood drills, but they should. So she was clearly like testing out the water and seeing if she could do business underwater.
Yeah. Why does Podoli seem like she's out of her depth?
Like she's an outsider? She is an outsider. So this is supposed to be a meeting of like the big neighborhoods, the like popular, where everybody hangs out, everybody goes. And Podoli is not really one of those. It is my great honor to sit at the same table as such elegant districts as Vinohrady, an old town. Well, I love your work. It's a fun place for families. There's like water parks and different things to do. But as far as like a heavy hitters meeting of like tourist locations, Podoli was not originally invited to this meeting. She's there because Rajchani canceled. Why is Podoli eating sweet potatoes? Does the Czech Republic grow some kind of sweet potato that is edible raw?
That is a reference to what we've seen the babičky, the grandmothers down in Podoli, feeding the nutria. Mm-hmm. And so she was taking on this persona and associating with the nutria. She was internalizing the likes and dislikes of the nutria. And no, I don't think that there's any sort of special Czech sweet potato that is not a deadly nightshade.
No, I mean,
that you should eat uncooked.
Humans should not eat Czech sweet potatoes raw.
So how long did that sweet potato stay in your mouth after that?
There were a lot of like, next take a bite, spit, and then I was like, yeah, keep switching out the potatoes. Why is Podoli obsessed with nutria? Why does the minister keep telling her not to feed them?
You haven't been feeding the nutria, have you? No?
I think nutria are obsessed with Podoli.
Yeah, because they could go anywhere. They could go to any river.
You do see them in other parts of the river. I have, but they seem to be concentrated there. I think it's because Podoli has some of the bank is dirt, so that the nutria can get up and bum around on the shoreline.
And that's where everyone goes to feed them.
Yeah, so it's easier to get near them and feed them. And they're an invasive species, so that's why the minister keeps telling her not to feed them.
They multiply and multiply and multiply, and when we feed them, they just want to stay, and they spread the word up the river.
That's right.
Like, Podoli's the place to be.
It's like that one time they brought those 20 rabbits to Australia, and then it was over. So the city is constantly battling the nutria problem, and Podoli's no help.
And Podoli keeps feeding them.
Okay, why does Vršovice have so many bad ideas to promote tourism?
How about we make the tourists go in the water and catch the rats?
Vršovice is an amazing place to go. There are not a lot of tourists there. It's really just locals. And I feel like they're just on the cusp, not that they want tourists, but they're just on the cusp of like, yeah, come to Vršovice, this is like a cool place to be, but they never quite get it together as much as like Vinohrady or maybe Karlín. But it's kind of like cool, like she's like, my friend's in a band. Oh, he just plays the harmonica. Like, everybody knows a guy that's like in a band down there, and there's a lot of like one-off places to go and grab a beer and like stick your head in, and there's like a bartender in a chair, you know, like that's very Vršovice.
It's a fun neighborhood.
So she's not quite up to the level of the other players when it comes to like promoting tourism. Is there some rivalry between Vinohrady and Karlín? Why do they snap at each other about the best place to live?
I mean, if you want to talk about food, everybody knows that Karlín's the place. Enjoy it while you're still above the waterline. You're just jealous because all the cool kids are moving to me.
I don't know that there's a specific rivalry between the two. I think that Vinohrady is just older and fancier, and Karlín is new and hipper, and I guess they aren't even really connected by the tunnel. That's Žižkov.
This is the thing. This is my opinion. Like, we have friends in Karlín, and they never want to leave Karlín. And we're in Vinohrady, and we never want to leave Vinohrady. So it's like this constant, like, where should we go?
I think that's a matter of geography, topography, though, because we have a giant hill between the two neighborhoods, so that you either have to go, like, kind of the long way through this tunnel through the hill, or you have to go around the hill. So it's always...
It's a hassle.
It is a hassle to get between the two, so they're as close as they are, they're very separated neighborhoods.
Yes, yes. What's with the Free Republic of Žižkov that she writes on her sign?
So that's just, I don't know where it originated, but it's been around a long time that the residents of Žižkov have kind of coined their neighborhood as the Free Republic of Žižkov. They did their own thing, and they didn't follow the rules, and so I think you can even buy a Free Republic of Žižkov passport
Nice.
case or something.
They're just free thinkers.
Yeah, so
It's its own place.
So it's one more opportunity for us to highlight that independent spirit of Žižkov. I thought Old Town was the heart of Prague. Why does she keep recommending things that are not Czech, like the Jack Daniels boat and Hungarian pastry?
What we need is more all-you-can-drink, all-night boat parties. Free shots, loud music.
Old Town is like, it's like the tourist center, much like, it's almost very similar like if you would go to the tourist center of Vienna or of Berlin or of Paris. Like up until last year, we had giant, massive panda bears and like weird stuff walking around. It's like, this isn't even remotely Czech. It's like they're competing to be the Disneyland of the country.
And when we say last year, we mean 3 years ago.
Yeah, pre-pandemic. 2 years gone.
We're not counting those. We're not counting 2020 and 2021.
What?
So.
No. Old Town is just out to lunch when it comes to like what's really Czech.
Authenticity, yeah.
Yeah, authenticity. And it's a shame because I would say 99% of the blogs, the YouTube channels, and the books, they're only recommending things in Old Town. So everybody is missing out on all these other characters we're talking about.
Yeah.
When the minister suggests spreading the campaign, the marketing campaign, to the rest of the Czech Republic, why does Old Town say...
To the rest of where?
It just goes to Old Town's conceitedness and not even recognizing the rest of the country. I mean, the world revolves around Old Town.
And it's almost like a representative of Prague. Like, Prague is notoriously self-centered and doesn't recognize the rest of the country. So that's why all the characters are like, we don't need to worry about the rest of the country. And Old Town doesn't even know it's in the Czech Republic.
Who is Brno, and why does she arrive too late for the meeting?
Brno is the second biggest city in the Czech Republic and gets no love, especially from Pražáci, from Praguers. So I think that the minister either accidentally or on purpose tells Brno like a different time than the meeting's happening. So she's super excited to be included in this meeting about, you know, increasing tourism, and people didn't even invite her at the time the meeting was happening, which is indicative of how the rest of the country treats Brno.
And what was her costume representative of?
She was a student. She was a student.
Yeah.
I'd run out of clothes at that point, but she was dressed as a student.
And Brno is a
college town,
university town. Yeah, so it's
highly recommend.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. I thought Prague was famous for cheap beer, like Old Town says. Why do all the other districts keep saying that's not a cheap beer?
Because the beer in Old Town is 2 to 3 times more expensive than anywhere outside of Old Town.
Yes.
So if you walk 100 meters outside of Old Town,
any direction,
yeah, you can get a beer probably at a local pub or restaurant, maybe, well, inflation's 17%, so I don't know yet. I don't know anymore. But it used to be about 30 to 40 crown, and then you would go to Old Town, and it was about 100 crown for a beer.
Prague is known as the place where beer is cheaper than water. And ironically, all of the people who come to the city for cheap beer go to Old Town, where beer is like super expensive. Okay, I hope that helped explain some of the parts that you might not have understood about the video, and encourage you to go watch it if you haven't watched it, because it really explains Prague as much as we could.
Yeah.
Tak, uvidíme se příště. Ahoj.
Ahoj.